I've had directors be like, moan louder, moan louder. And I'm like, I don't want to moan louder. Like, I'm just moaning how I moan.
I'm wearing that badge of honor very proudly right now.
We just have so much fun, playing together.
So Eric was like, well, you could play the tambourine. And I said, I'm not playing the tambourine.
I love the love. Here for the love.
I need to be outside. That's my office.
And really, your level of professionalism and streamlined is it's really should be applauded. You've done a great thing. Like, this is really, I looked at some of your previous interviews, and really exceptional. I'm happy to be a part of the legacy you're building with Eclectic Arts.
Same.
Well, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I am Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Tuesday, the 22nd of March, 2022. And thank you for hanging in there with me. We had some technical issues, which was no one's fault, really. It's really quite bizarre, to be honest with you. I've never encountered some of the technical issues we have, but my guest is here ready to go. So if you're watching this down the road, then you may be wondering what I'm talking about, but it just kind of took us a while to get things connected, but we're good to go. Quickly, before I forget, if this is your first time watching me or joining me on my YouTube channel, if you could hit the subscribe button, I greatly appreciate it. If you're over on the Twitch side of things, if you could follow me over there, I also appreciate that. And if you want to know what I have coming up, which is quite a few things, you can follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram. That's where I post everything first, and then some of that information migrates over to other social media platforms. And there's always a PayPal me link if you'd like to make a tip or donation in every YouTube description of every video and live stream that I've done. Speaking of what's coming up, this Thursday, the 24th of March at 7 p.m., I have Aizan Liang, who is a wonderful actress from Kazakhstan. And she's based in the United States now, but she was in this really awesome film, which is somewhere in my background, right there. It's called Tomris overseas, but over here in America, it was Legend of Tomris. And she is a fierce warrior in that film. So I can't wait to talk to her. And that's going to be this Thursday. And then this Saturday, the 26th at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, we've got C. Lemon, which is, she is a really interesting musician that's based here in Seattle now, but she's originally from New York. And I do have another live stream on Tuesday next week and Wednesday next week, and it just kind of goes on and on. And so people that aren't familiar with what I do, I've been doing live streams since May 20th of 2020. And so the live stream world has been my connection to everything artistic. And then now these worlds are colliding, where I've had a chance to go back to in-person events. And so, like, my intro video kind of showed things from how Eclectic Arts started to then the live streams, and now it's back to the in-person thing. So it's a bit of both. So the film world for me also started during the pandemic. So some people are very familiar with the fact that I've been reviewing films, and was really fortunate to be a part of some virtual film festivals last year in 2021. And this particular festival, I always hold a special place in my heart for it, because it's really the first one that I was supposed to do before 2020 happened in person. So luckily, the virtual things worked out for a lot of people, including myself, and I'm really looking forward to the festival this year. So let's get to my introduction. My guest today is the director of the Seattle Jewish Film Festival. The festival kicks off its 27th year this Thursday, the 24th. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Miss Pamela Lavitt. Hey.
Hey, thank you. I think it's, when dress rehearsals technically don't go well, the show is going to go okay. So that's how I see this. How are you? Nice to be with you.
I am doing very well. Thank you very much. And how are you? And how are things going? You're days away from the festival kicking off.
Days away from the festival, and how wonderful after 2 years virtual, and your schedule sounds incredible, that we're actually going to be live, as opposed to in March 2020, where we were facing 2 days before mandatory closures, making a hard decision that our 25th anniversary needed to be shuttered. So we are seeing we actually have a film that's already completely on standby. So people are coming back to the theaters, and we are so excited.
I can only imagine. Again, for myself, I distinctly remember since it was going to be my first festival in 2020, figuring out, okay, so what films are playing, what theaters, what times, what days, and trying to figure out my schedule. And then, unfortunately, everything went out the window for everybody. And then what I really liked, though, was that I know you guys went virtual later in 2020, kind of almost like a trial kind of period, like in June, I want to say. I know you guys had run the festival, but then last year you kind of really hit it hard. It's like, this is what we're presenting. I can only imagine the kind of challenges that presented for yourself and for your entire team.
Yeah, and I think it's been a time of, we started off the pandemic saying that, adversity breeds, creativity and necessity, and, and so there were a lot of, kind of little things that we said to kind of get ourselves energized to be creative and deliver to the community. So I'm part of the Strom Jewish Community Center. We have a 375 seat theater there and a fully equipped Barco cinema, just as good as AMC. We did things year round, and we also had global music and comedy and film year round. So it was a standstill, not just for the film festival, but also for a year that we had presented Sandra Bernhard and Deborah Messing. We had incredible guests coming live to the city. The film festival virtually has also been a bit of a blessing. We've reached people all over the world. We've created community and partnerships for our events. And so I think virtual, to some extent, this year it's a hybrid festival. We get to do the best of both worlds and reach people wherever they are and where their comfort levels are. Those conversations, from filmmakers from Turkey, Israel, and Greece and UK at the same time will be a little more expensive flying people in, but it was exciting, and we have a place for it. But I'm excited to get back into the theater.
Yeah, and as you just so eloquently put it, it's been such an interesting time, especially even like the last couple of weeks here in Washington State with the mandate being lifted. And from my own personal day job, it was strange seeing like the other parts of people's faces. And also, and also, even like you said, it depends on people's comfort level as well. And people, rightfully so, in many cases, are still wearing their masks. I wear mine for part of the day, depending on what I'm doing. And luckily, the place where I'm at has been really respectful of that. And they've done a really good job fostering that kind of community and that sense of like people's choices to be respected. And I'm curious too, like you mentioned that, and I've kind of found this out too, being able to go virtual has allowed these other kind of things to happen globally, other parts of the country. People can partake in what the Seattle Jewish Film Festival does. With this 27th year, is it basically, if somebody who's watching this right now that doesn't live in Washington State, can they do the virtual option? What kind of things can they partake in? Are there any kind of restrictions to it globally?
Yeah, that's a really great question. A couple of things to keep it simple. We're doing something that was a little bit of a risky venture for us, which is that anything that is showing in person also screens virtually. We also created a 2-week window of 48 hours where all 17 of 18 films, except for this big centerpiece event we have with a live score, a Silent Movie Monday event at the Paramount Theater, which was a 2-year in the making show that got, basically transitioned for 2 years later now. But 17 of our 18 films all can stream virtually. About half of those films are screening in person, and about half of those films can be seen anywhere in the United States and internationally. Most filmmakers these days, they've gotten pretty wise that they want to see you geo-block or limit your access to Washington State. Previously, they gave us a little bit more berth when we were all struggling, but now that virtual has become a thing, they are pretty restrictive. They know that the markets, especially that the sort of niche film markets, whether it's, the Couch Festival, the Lesbian and Gay Festival, like we're all over the country in localized ways. So they want to see us keep our local community bonded to it. But about 9 of those films can be seen. When you go to our website, you try to process your ticket, it'll give you a little alert and it'll say, this film may not be able to be seen outside of Washington State. But I would say it's a little bit of half of the films, 50% can be seen anywhere in the US and abroad. So yes.
Okay, that's awesome. So people that are watching this, and I know some of my followers are definitely in other parts of the world, you can partake in the festival. So you can say, how come you're talking to someone that I can't do anything about this, Mark? No, you can do something about this. You can be a part of it too. And we can have a dialogue about the film that you just watched on your day and your time. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's one of the things that I had to really kind of think about this, because even like last year with some of the festivals that I was fortunate to cover, virtually, it gives me the option, especially with my schedule. So like if I wake up at 7 in the morning, I could watch something virtually versus like, well, when's it going to be at this? Oh, it's not till Tuesday at this time. It really does kind of lend itself. Obviously, it's not the same as being in person with an audience and the emotion and everything else that happens, but it's nice to have that alternative.
Well, I'm going to say one thing about the virtual. People are a little confused because we're dropping these films at literally 12:01 a.m. And so people are thinking, why are you showing a film at 12:01 a.m.? And it's just because it's literally midnight to midnight, in a 2-week window. So just for those of you out there that want to see the festival, you don't have to wake up in the middle of the night. For the virtual stuff, there are some Zooms and other things that are engagement related, but we really preserved the most exciting engagement experiences for people in person, ways of like luring people back in the theater, making them feel that there's a value add to driving to Pacific Place or the Seattle Theater Group's Paramount Theater or to our theater on Mercer Island. So if you come opening night in person, you're going to get an Academy Award nominated director and a bunch of delicious desserts, no buffets yet, all handouts. But if you come to the brunch, you're going to get a huge, beautiful spread in a box and you get to eat it. You get music and klezmer music and a filmmaker. We do a lot of things like closing night. There's, the film's named Rose and there's rosé being served that night. It's part of the ticket. So we tried to make the in-person experience heightened and valuable, because we definitely heard from a lot of people, Mark, that, I want to watch it when I want to watch it. And I don't want to drive anymore. But here's the other cool part. Any in-person ticket for $5 more, you can add your virtual guarantee. So you just add $5 to your film and you get them both ways. So you can't drive that night. Your kid is not getting the babysitter you wanted. Your partner doesn't want to come, doesn't feel well. You have a guarantee that you can then watch it virtually. So that's how we try to navigate this very hybrid, flexible world that everyone has gotten used to.
That's amazing. I love the thought that you and your team put into that to figure out how do we not only make it worthwhile for people in person, but they understand that some things do happen, as we've found out in the last couple of years, that are out of your control, and so that you're still not missing out on something that you wanted to partake in. And I distinctly remember, and if Rachel's watching this, the publicist, I was going through the list of saying, I want to be there in person for these things because I didn't get to do that last year. And then I'm comparing that to my schedule, my master schedule, which I can see over there, which is just kind of staring at me. It was like, where can I do this? So I'm still looking, because I know I'll find something that will line up to say, hey, I don't have something that I can be there and I want to be there. And I love the fact that you're like you said, with Rose and having a rosé. I did see the brunch. I think it's on a Sunday, correct? Yeah,
that's the one that's on standby. But we've never really turned people away. We just have a lot of, the film world is filled with pass holders, and we love our pass holders. They're the ones that buy into the whole Megillah, as we say, or the Cinemagillah. And the word Megillah means like the whole thing, the whole enchilada. So we have to wait and see who shows up and how many pass holders want to be there, and then we'll sell tickets to the rest. I do agree with you, though. I mean, schedules are really interesting in COVID and in pandemic times. We've gotten used to, the on-demand world, and I don't think we're coming back, even though people were clamoring for the connection, that spark, that je ne sais quoi that happens when you're in a theater shoulder to shoulder with that big screen. It's an amazing experience that does build a lot of connection and conversation. But I do think we learned also that kids were watching at home, like teenagers with their families, just because the TV was on and they showed up. And so this new audience was coming to the festival, and parents with little kids could put those kids to bed and watch a film, and they just wouldn't be hassled otherwise. So we've learned a lot about how audiences operate, and flexibility seems to be king at this time.
Yeah, you bring up some very, very valid points. And I live by myself, but even for when I was looking through things, it would be like, what do I feel like watching? And sometimes, yeah, I might be in the mood to binge through 3 or 4 films. And other times it's like, oh, I don't feel like watching much of anything today. But then I'm also on, I've been covering concerts and theater and opera and ballet in person since October. So I love, and I was just actually at the theater, movie theater recently for, that was actually probably the first time in many, many months. So it was like, hey, I'm finally back. And just, yeah, having people talk about it, and you're all kind of there for one reason. You want to see the film and hopefully be entertained on some level. And to me, and I'm just speaking for myself, there is nothing that replaces that feeling, almost like a communal feeling when you're watching a film with an audience there. But yeah, you're right. If people aren't looking at some way to kind of please both, then they're probably missing out on some really things that could really build their festival for the future.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there was a lot of people that got left behind that we didn't realize, that the movie theater scheduled experience. A hot film might show at 8:30 p.m., but then we're cutting out a lot of folks that won't drive or live demographically, they live in Enumclaw. And so the idea of reach and has been an incredible awakening, and giving cinema to homes that are new patrons. We've definitely reached a lot of new people through the virtual avenue. And you mentioned that our first festival was in June. I can't claim to be the first that went streaming, but we were definitely one of the first like 10 or 20 festivals in the country to become a streaming festival. We were literally doing backflips, and now there's all these avenues, and look at your cool screen with all of your graphics. Like there's really interesting technologies and platforms that have allowed us to do really cool things. We now have a live stream studio in our theater. We just had our first live stream global music show, and it looks as good as any produced television show with one person and a 3 PTZ, robotic cameras. So we've really advanced in a really fast way. And I think that I'm hoping that we can build back, because that's where we're at. We still haven't built back our audience. We used to be in a 500 seat house for opening night. We're kind of in a 200, 250 seat house. We don't know what the appetite yet is for the theater and coming back, but we're hopeful. We're really hopeful.
Well, and again, for me, I think what's really awesome is that sounds like yourself and again, and your wonderful team that works with you have been really dissecting through the last couple of years of what's worked, what didn't work, what do we want to try tweaking, not tweaking, maybe seeing what somebody else did and then trying to put our own spin on it. And I love the fact that it's evolving, that you're looking at this and taking it and really kind of trying to make it work for as many people as possible, instead of maybe becoming, I don't know, maybe the stick in the mud or traditional. And we say, we just want to do it like this and we're going to go back to that. And if you don't like it tough, it's like, well, no, that's not where the headspace is for people right now, and you're missing out. So I love the fact that you're not doing that, and you're thinking, no, how do we embrace this? How do we make it work for everybody?
The short answer is that I'm part of a team of people that spend a lot of time, and to put a little bit of a Jewish spin on it, which might translate, we analyzed sort of these 4 quadrants. We said, okay, are we in exile? Are we in plagues? Are we in mana, like as if we're in this windfall of great things? Are we in some other? So there were these interesting ways that we Jewishly actually analyzed this, and we were looking at each of these different places, which is if you're in exile or in plagues where people can't come together, they're at home, they can't leave their homes, they're shuttered, or are they starting to step foot and they're afraid? And how do you keep them from being afraid, or how do you reach them where they're at? We really analyzed all the different ways that we could deliver community, because that's our job and our business. I'm a film festival director. I'm an arts director. Prior to COVID, I was bringing 100 artists a year to the Seattle area for Jewish and Israeli artists generally. But our first primary job is to get people together. That's what we want to do, and get them feeling connected to their own community or to the people that they know, and wanting to understand, build tolerance and understanding. So we just realized the arts is the best platform to do it, and we have to find a way to deliver it even today. And building a hybrid festival was really challenging. Like, can we stretch this ticketing system to its furthest possible degree? Like, can we give 8-pack holders 2 tickets to person, but 2 to virtual? Like, there was a lot of dancing that we had to do to figure it out.
I can only imagine.
Don't get bogged down in my weedy little wonky world of the mechanics of things. But I'm sort of an academic by training. I'm not a technology person. I'm a curator, but it is we had to have these platforms to support our vision.
Oh, absolutely. And people that have watched any of my live streams since 2020 know that I'm not a tech person either. And
and we didn't do a good job getting together on time, but whatever, we did it.
Yeah, we're here, and that's all that matters.
We're here.
I remember a long time ago, I used to be a teacher, and it used to be one of those cases where you had some days where it's like, as long as we're there teaching and there's kids present, it's like everything's fine, even if the world's falling around it. It's like, oh my gosh.
Exactly. You made it to class, you're good.
Yeah, and truth be told, and people know this too, for those that have been watching quite a few of my live streams, that I had one guest that was literally on a horse, and that's why we didn't get him on for about 40 minutes. And his publicist was in California, and she's like, oh my gosh, I hope he's not on his horse. I'm like, on his horse. And she managed, he was actually on his horse, but he had cell reception, and there's all these kind of other things, but he managed to come back, and so that was about a 40-minute delay.
Oh my gosh, I think I had somebody who was on a motorcycle, and they had to pull over, and I had like a mixologist. It was for one of our virtual festivals. We had a mixologist who was mixing a signature drink that we did for our closing night film, and he got like stuck in somewhere, and he was one of the guests, and he's on a motorcycle. I mean, he looked like the coolest guest ever. That's all I can say. If you're on the side of the road with a motorcycle and a helmet, I'm sold. You're the star. But yeah, it's sort of funny when how people can have figured out really cool, like even like my lame basement at the moment, but I feel like it's real. Like, I don't do virtual backgrounds. I like being real. My kids are upstairs making dinner, so this is what you get.
No, I'm the same way. I don't like virtual backgrounds. I constantly change what I have back here, and it's been a lot of trial and error. What do I like, what I don't like, and what seems to work, and all that kind of fun stuff. But and I've had people ask me, and one of the media people I was at a concert with 2 weeks ago was like, Mark, I've been watching your live streams. I had no idea she was watching, because she's never in the chat or anything like that. And then she was asking a ton of questions. So I don't think I can ever go live because it's just too nerve-wracking for me, and I don't know how you do it. It's like, that's kind of why I do it, because I want to, like, I used to be in a band. I used to play on stages and all that kind of stuff. So things happen. I mean, that's part of it being live. So
yeah, I mean, this year, I think what's happened a lot, though, with some of our filmmakers, for example, the reality is Seattle is like 9-10 hours away from Berlin, France, Germany. It's not an easy thing to get people virtually. You could figure out a way to get people convened or recorded. It's not as easy to get people into the theater at a very specifically scheduled time. So we have a film next weekend called Neighbors, and beautiful, the filmmaker is Kurdish, and he is living in Switzerland. And it's an incredibly gorgeous film, and I really hope everybody will come and see this. But Mano Khalil is his name, is going to wake up at 3 a.m. in order to be part of a Q&A for the festival. It's very gracious of him, and I do hope that just for that reason alone, it's also just probably one of the best cinematic films in the festival. And if you love any cinema with a child who is an incredible face and an incredible actor, you will enjoy that film dearly. A Turkish, Kurdish, Jewish kind of story of borders and living together. But I think, the new Jew, for example, Guri Alfi, also willing to wake up at 6 a.m., one of Israel's most famous comedians. He's like the Seinfeld of Israel, even younger and hipper and cooler, actually. But, these folks have to get up at 6 a.m. to do anything live. And that's the other challenge of, a film festival at this time, hybrid, is who can show up, who flies in. Luckily Vadim Perlman is coming in from Canada. He's currently living in Canada for opening night Persian lessons. So this is the other thing you don't realize, that we have some things pre-recorded, but is it as exciting? It's exciting when somebody is live and you can interact with them. That's a lot more interesting in a film festival.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you shared all the difficult logistics that comes with trying to have somebody internationally join you. And I kept nodding because I'm right there with you. I had tell a real short story. The reason I got into the virtual world is that there's a wonderful band called Alice from Los Angeles, and their tour got scrapped. So they decided to go virtual and figure it out on their own. They're like, Mark, we'd love to have you open up our shows. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I was like, what am I going to do? Said, no, we know, artistic people. We thought you could do like 30-minute interviews and you can do that for all of our shows. I'm like, okay, we'll see how this goes. And again, I'm not tech oriented. So I said, I'm trusting you guys. I don't know what I'm doing. You're down in, the command station in Los Angeles. And, but kind of fast forward this whole thing, they were trying to do the brick and mortar tour so that the DJs and other bands, they're still trying to have them on the tour, but some of them are all scattered across the United States. So it's like, wait a minute, so are we starting at 7 Pacific? So how are you going to get the person in New York on? It's 10 for them over there. So like, so they had to kind of start figuring all this stuff out. And I had the same thing where like there's a wonderful band from South Africa and there's a 10-hour difference. So I'm up at 6 a.m. to accommodate them. And oh my gosh, on that Alice tour, there's a drummer, and I felt so bad because he was in the UK with the 8-hour difference from Seattle, and I know that now. He got up at 3 a.m. to do the interview, and then he went back to sleep. And I didn't know. I thought he was here in America still, and he moved back to England to do recording, and then the pandemic hit, and he got stuck there.
Yeah.
So I know it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So when guests like you just mentioned that are going to be part of the festival are taking the time to either be up at 6 or stay up late or whatever it is to be live with the audience at the festival, it makes you feel really, really good that they want to do something and also see the value in doing it live. For
sure.
That's awesome. So as we kind of wrap this up, Pamela, I'm maybe not wrap it up, but I'm just really, I have a random kind of mind. I'm curious, how do you select the films that are in this year's festival? I mean, were there like a ton to pick from? Were you already kind of eyeing certain ones, or how does this work?
Sure. I mean, I would say that incredibly enough, we weren't sure during the pandemic what the film market and what the independent film options would be, how much shooting people were doing. There's a couple things we knew already. Luckily, Lisa Hurwitz, who's the filmmaker for the Automat, was a film festival. She worked for me for the Seattle Jewish Film Festival. She'd been working on her film. She was one of my employees. And luckily, we sort of knew that Lisa would eventually bring her film to the festival. So, yep, shoo in everybody. But Lisa's film is receiving incredible press. But the rest of these films, we had about 350 films altogether. We use different submission platforms. We also have relationships, obviously, with filmmakers and curators and distributors that we ask. But the real diamonds in the rough, I think, in some respects, are short films, because we have a curator for short films, Warren Etheridge, who is Walla Walla Movie Crush, teaches at Cinema Media Studies. He, runs a short film festival, has his kind of fingers in that world, but we get a lot of incredible submissions of shorts, and we have some real gems this year. One is an Academy Award nominee in the shorts program. But overall, the selection process has an incredible group of very loyal volunteers who sit and eat pop, bonbons and in their pajamas and watch easily. I think the record this year was one person hit 100 films. And I know, and they come from different backgrounds and walks of life. It's a pretty diverse committee. Men, women, different, ethnic backgrounds, ages, religions. It's not just a dilettante, committee of 5 people. It's about 30 people who watch films, review them, and then there is an executive committee that kind of pours over. We generally try with only 18 films. I mean, some festivals like SIF, 400 films, things like that. So we have to be pretty selective, and usually we're trying to hit both a demographic cross group. We have a couple of rubrics in the festival. We always have like, geh gesund, which in Yiddish means go, go and be healthy. That's what it means. But it's kind of like you say it like go girl. It's geh gesund. That's what you say. It's our kind of LGBTQIA plus film. We often have a cinema spotlight on an Israeli film. We often have something from France, so we look at a whole different matrix of programming and then make our selections based on that. The TV series are kind of new to us. Everybody loves a good TV series. We used to do something called Israeli TV dinners, where we'd go to like Cinnabar and we'd show 4 or 5 episodes of a show, and you'd eat, and then you'd get 4 or 5 episodes to watch the rest of the series from home. So this year you can binge on 2 different series, The New Jew, which is a comedy from Israel, and documentary, and then Labyrinth, which is a drama from Switzerland, excuse me. So six pieces, you get 6 episodes, and the other you get 4 episodes. So that's a new thing for us, to give everybody the full thing, the full meal.
Oh, that sounds awesome. And I could definitely second the for anyone that's going to watch the festival, to never skip out on the shorts program. Some of the best things have come through the shorts things for me. Even like when I made the request to your publicist of the films that I wanted to review ahead of time, I said, I want that shorts block. I want to make sure that
I'm so glad. We're actually showing it free at University of Washington to students at UW Hillel, because we think that it is a really great way to bring young people into the theater, especially from the university, because they may not have time to go to Mercer Island or to AMC downtown. So if you're a UW student, come on down on Thursday, March 31st, and you will get to come to the shorts program and talk with Warren for free. I did want to say one thing. Greener Pastures was a film that we had tried to program for a previous virtual festival. And my friend Eddie Portnoy is the curator at YIVO Institute of Jewish Research in New York, and a professor, and he is curating a new exhibit. It's going to be opening up in New York on Jews and cannabis. And so I felt that was like a perfect marriage of a film about, Jews and cannabis. And then you have Eddie talking about this unbelievable history that he's uncovered from like remnants in Cairo, of like hash is better than wine, poetry. And then you have biblical references, and he's uncovered this incredible history, all the way to, the Grateful Dead and Abby Hoffman and all these great, radicals that the kind of, the swinging, 90s and 60s. But I really wanted to see some of those conversations come into the festival. So sometimes the films are an excuse to have them.
Okay, no, that's I appreciate you explaining how that process works of how you figure out what the program for any given year's festival, and then you're kind of looking at also kind of things that might line up of like, hey, I want to have this put into the festival so that it's kind of timely. It's a good time to have this dialogue. And as we wrap up, so Pamela, what can you let people know out there about the festival that want to partake in it, other than going to the website?
Sure. Well, I think that first of all, seattlejff.org. I will say the festival website out loud, but I think the festival is, because it's 2 weeks streaming. If you haven't been to the Seattle Jewish Film Festival, I think one of the biggest things I would just say is we are an international festival. We are one of the longest running and one of the largest international film festivals, other than SIFF and $3 Bills, Seattle Lesbian and Gay Film Festival in the city. We're in our 27th year. We have often opened up with an Academy Award nominee. We've had many Academy Award winners. So this is a film festival for everyone of all ages. There's a couple of teen films that you can go to the website and it'll say great for teens. So there's a little something for everyone. And we just hope that you'll dip your foot in the water and come and check it out. And as I said, we're different than a lot of other international festivals because we like experiences. Like I said, an interview about a history of Jews and cannabis, or food that's Jewish comfort food and bagels and lox and that kind of thing. So you're going to get a lot more than you bargained for if you come to the festival and experience the conversations.
Awesome. Well, I am so looking forward to this year's festival. And again, I'm going to try to find a way to be in person at least one of the events because they do sound really awesome when you look at the list. So, Pamela, thank you so much for one, your patience for getting connected tonight. But two, it was a pleasure talking with you and learning more about the festival. And yeah, the fact that it's been going 27 years and that I really enjoyed myself last year, even though I was in the comfort of my home. But I got connected with one of the directors of American Birthright last year with Becky, and we still are connected now. We've been talking about some things through email and that kind of thing, and that happened because of the festival. So I thank you for
we
that.
premiered. We were the first festival. She's an example of someone who submitted through the film submission process, and we programmed it, and now she's been screening it all over the world. And we're really proud of being part of her journey. And same with Lisa Hurwitz. We're proud of being part of her journey of the Automat here in Seattle. She's sort of the local version of that story. So thank you so much for your time and your conversation and your patience with me getting online. And hopefully it bodes well for a very streamlined and streaming festival.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pamela. Have a great festival and have a good evening while you're here in the same area.
Bye, everyone.
But bye. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.